The wars of independence in Spanish America led to political fragmentation and the creation of a number of unstable republics. After Spain withdrew from the Americas in the 19th century, British capital and manufactured goods flooded Latin American markets. British capital also financed the construction of ports and railroads. This economic penetration by Britain in the 19th century and later by the United States in the 20th century represented a new type of economic domination that did not require the acquisition of territory. After the 1890s, many Latin American republics began to feel the pressures of US imperialism. For example, in 1895, in a resounding statement of the Monroe Doctrine, President Cleveland forbade Britain to deal directly with Venezuela in a border dispute that affected British Guyana. Then a few years later, the United States supported a group of revolutionaries in Colombia and recognized Panama as an independent nation. Consequently, the United States leased and fortified a canal zone in the newly created nation of Panama. In 1898, after the United States defeated Spain in the Spanish-American War, it annexed Puerto Rico and the Philippines. Cuba was set up as an independent nation, subject to the Platt Amendment, which allowed the United States to oversee Cuba's relations with other nations. It allowed the United States to intervene in Cuban affairs, and it also allowed the United States to lease Guantanamo. In other words, the United States obtained another protectorate in the Caribbean. Given Japan's imperialistic designs in the Pacific, the United States decided to annex Hawaii in 1898 by joint resolution of Congress. Hawaii was later admitted as a state in the American Union in 1959. From the 1880s until the First World War, most Latin American nations entered a period of economic growth that resulted from the influx of capital and new technologies from Europe and the United States. The development of export agriculture and industry was at the core of the economic, political, and social transformations of this period. The wealthy and the urbanized middle class in Latin America were the ones who benefited the most from this export boom. The mines and the industries paid low wages, and the working conditions were often quite miserable. So the working classes constantly mobilized and agitated for better compensation and working conditions. During this period, the wealthy and the urbanized middle classes viewed the indigenous people of their nations as impediments to national development and economic growth. Consequently, government policies fluctuated between ignoring the demands and needs of indigenous people and attempting to exterminate them. There were also a number of cultural differences between the two groups. The wealthy emulated European and North American lifestyles, while the poor felt more comfortable with the lifestyles and traditions of the indigenous people. Unfortunately, peaceful attempts to create social equity in Latin America did not succeed. Consequently, the masses violently resisted modernization. And a number of 20th century revolutionary movements in Latin America adopted a conscious policy to celebrate their nation's indigenous heritage. And some intellectuals like José Carlos Mariátegui even tied indigenismo to socialism. And after the Bolshevik Revolution, the rise of communism offered hope and inspiration to many of Latin America's revolutionary groups.